Yeah, I think this is a pretty common occurrence. I definitely call it a myth. Of course, everyone would like to believe, well, how hard can it be to use an iPad? Everybody knows how to use that. So all I should have to do is hand it to an associate and off they go, right? And I think I could list a lot of different examples where I've seen that this just didn't work out. Not to try to single people out, but it's always good to list some examples. And I remember experiences with in the past with Sterling Jewelers, Crate and Barrel, even Dixon's Car Phone. These are all ones where associates were given tablets to use of some kind, and they tried it, used a little bit, and ultimately the experience became one where they just put it back behind the counter. And I actually been in some of those stores where that happened. I'd asked associates, so why aren't you using it? And it was always one of two reasons. One is the performance wasn't what they wanted it to be, and they thought it was hindering instead of helping their ability to work with a customer. And then interestingly, the second most common reason was that they just never really had any training around how they're supposed to use it with a customer. So they were left to guess and just try things with an app, and it didn't always work or turn out with the result they expected, and it kind of left them scratching their heads with the customer, and they just felt that, I can work without this, it's not helping me. Of course, for the brand, that's exactly the opposite of the result that you want. So training, can include not just what the application does, how do you use it with the customer, and even little things like how do you engage and interact with the customer if you're holding a screen in your hands and you've got to show it to the customer. What are you showing? Is it customer data, for example, or product data? And how you use each of those may differ. And you really need to make sure that associates know how to engage with that model, how to use this to really make the whole transaction process smoother and better. Because of course, that's what the brand wants, right? You want higher customer satisfaction from this, and you want a more valuable sale out of the transaction. And the technology is supposed to help the associate, not make it more difficult.
So needless to say, in this myth, the iPad is really a metaphor for any mobile technology. It's a play on that word, but ultimately the technology has to be simple enough for associates to be able to use it. But this idea that you can throw technology in the store or put it in the hands of store associates and expect it to work, I call it, stick it in for the win, and it just doesn't work. And there's three reasons why. So number one, introducing a mobile device in the hand of a store associate is either going to change an existing process or introduce a new one. And change of any kind is hard. Old habits die hard. And change management, therefore, along with the technology, is critical. Number two, enterprise software isn't exactly the gold standard for user experience. And that's just a muscle that retailers will have to get really good at. So redesigning both the workflows and the interfaces in a mobile-first world requires a focus on user-centered design. And quite honestly, if the actual application, if the actual workflow isn't as easy as using an iPad, your store associates won't use it, or won't use it to the effect that you intended it. And number three, it's also very important to consider things like ergonomics. So do I, as a store associate, use the mobile device between myself and the customer and create this potential kind of wall of disengagement? Or do I acquire a more open stance, bring them side by side and have a more natural conversational dialogue where the mobile device is a tool and enabling the actual customer experience versus hindering it? So these are soft skills that may not come naturally to your store associates if you don't actively train them on it. So, just arming your store associates with devices, it does not work. You have to think about, making it easy to use for them, rewarding them to embrace change, and supporting them with some soft skills training.